All right. Well, welcome to the Viking Press Pass. And joining me today is a great Augustana alumni, now on staff as a grad assistant down at Kansas State University. So, Josh Wintroub. Josh, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Well, you're in Cincinnati, so you're not even in Kansas. So as you guys get set to play them, but so I appreciate you kind of fitting me into the tight baseball schedule, and I know the game had been moved up a little bit as well. So certainly appreciate it as always. Um, well, hey, let's start kind of present time, and what we'll do is we'll kind of work ourselves back, chronologically, and finish with Augie there towards the end. But this is your first year on staff at K State as a grad assistant, but second year, associated with the program because you pitched there last year. Um, Now talk to me just a little bit about like what your role is as a grad assistant because I know you got your certificate in data analytics while you were there. And I think you're what, the director of analytics for the baseball team. Is that what you're currently
Yeah,
doing?
so I'm a grad assistant. Basically, I'm working. I finished my master's in data analytics. Turned in my last exam Monday, actually, and then I call myself director of analytics, but really I'm just a grad assistant that kind of handles the analytics.
Yep.
But just give myself the better title, I think.
So when you were looking at K State, were you kind of looking baseball first for your grad year, or were you looking for somewhere that you could play baseball, but also the data analytics was the important part? And then, as I think about was it more like a certificate 1 year program you were looking for as well? Like, what directed you to K State in that decision?
Yeah, so I mean, it was mostly a baseball decision. I kind of got in the portal. It was basically a baseball decision, but I also had, my parents were in my ear and they were like, go somewhere where you can continue education, get something meaningful, help your career in the long run. So it was nice. K State had a certificate, which is a 1 year program, but then they asked me to come back, and so now I'm finishing my master's.
Nice.
Kind of,
Well,
yeah,
it's a good halfway mark between where you're at Augie. I mean, Manhattan, Kansas. It's only what, 8 hours, something like that from Colorado. So not too
yeah,
bad.
yeah. It's like 7. It's nice. It's a little shorter than the 12 it was to Rock Island, but
Yeah, just as boring though. Just as
oh,
boring.
yep. Instead of 12 on I-80, it's 7 on I-70. So
Yep,
it's a lot of flat.
it is. I mean, pretty much once you get out of like, you're east of like, Denver and Aurora and heading, east on I-70, it's like, eastern Colorado is like the most barren, and western part of Kansas is like some of the most like
Yep.
barren country in the world, and you can just see for miles. And I don't envy that drive. We were down in Manhattan, Kansas. Me and my wife were when we lived in Denver. We met her parents in Manhattan there at the state park, and we camped there for like a week. Um, yeah, that was not a ton of fun. Um,
No, it's
there,
a
driving
lot
through
on
that.
that drive. See, a lot of windmills. That's the
It is. So, is this, as a grad assistant then, are you on payroll then, or is it considered more like an unpaid internship? Like, how does that set up?
It's basically an unpaid internship. It's I get like a stipend kind of scholarship sort of deal.
Okay.
So I kind of look at it as an internship sort of.
Yep. Do you get like housing? Is all that kind of a part of it? Like you would be like a normal student, or do you still have to pay for housing kind of outside of it?
Uh, the stipend basically covers my expenses, so that's
Got
kind
it.
of basically where, yeah,
Got it. That's a pretty good
yep,
setup. And
yeah, it's not bad at all.
so what are you doing as a grad assistant with data analytics for the team? Like, just kind of talk through that.
So essentially, with our TrackMan system, which basically is game tracking, it covers all the pitch metrics, kind of game data, exit velocity, stuff like that. After every game, I get a file that I download onto my computer, and I run all our TrackMan reports. Is basically the data side, and then I send those out to our coaches. And then during games, I'm in the bullpen. I'm kind of a walkie guy, bullpen coach. And then during practice, I just kind of hang out with our pitching coach. We talk through things, go through kind of game plans, that sort of thing.
Hmm.
A kind of assistant pitching coach is kind of how I see it.
Got it. So I
Yeah.
mean, when you get the file and all that data, are you are you essentially like creating measures and all that stuff, or does it pretty much come out of the system, in a nice, you know, nice file, nice format where you can organize all the data, or the data's already been organized, or do you have to do all that before you send it off to the coaches?
So it comes to me in a basically a big Excel file with it tracks so much stuff. It's unbelievable. And then I run it through. We have a Python code that just makes puts it into a pretty easily readable format. And then I send it to the coaches, and then I send it to the players that pitched
Okay.
just to look at. Yeah. So
Are
it's
you
basically pretty automated at this point.
is it now, have you
Yeah.
ever had to like, you know, um do anything with the Python code at all, or did you have to create that, or is it something that was kind of already in place, when you got into that role?
Yeah, we had the same thing last year. So the person who did what I do now last year, I don't know who made it, but it was passed down to me, and then I've made a few adjustments, just ease of life stuff. Kind
Yep.
of makes it a little easier. But yeah, I've done a little bit, but not too much.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I know I was working with the data analytics senior inquisition last year at Augie, um, to really pull in everything on the NC2A site for every Division 3 football team, and then also every D3 baseball team. But my hang up was, um, I couldn't. I still struggle a little bit with like our studio is what they put it in and what they used. So I've just been kind of struggling with that a little bit. So I've got like individually like power queries. I'm just going in and tapping in and kind of breaking down the URL and adjusting those inputs. I'm like, I need to figure this R studio out because it would be probably so much easier to manage
Yeah,
that
R
stuff.
R isn't too bad. I use mostly Python. It's just what I'm experienced with. But R is same thing. It's,
Yeah. I mean, I'm literally like, trying to learn how to drive a race car when I don't even have my, learner's permit. So with that type of
yeah,
stuff.
yeah. Well, I took enough classes in it now that it's unfortunately pretty easy.
Pretty easy.
Well, not.
Yeah.
I
Now,
understand what's going on.
so during the game, one of the things I think is pretty cool. I know, I watched a lot of the K State games last year, obviously, because you were pitching. So, I had K State on an alert, so I was always watching, and hope you would pitch. Um, and one of the things I thought was really cool is the baseball team, must have someone in the communications or marketing department with them that, during the game, is putting a ton of stats out on Twitter X, and posting that stuff during the game. Now, does like your role have any interaction with them, or is that like a separate is that a separate group that, would push those like in-game, stats out, spin rates, there was velo, there's like exit velocity, there's all kinds of stuff they were pulling from. And I thought it was super cool just to follow and see, but um I don't know, is it a separate group that does that, or how do you kind of interact with them?
the, the baseball analytics page on Twitter X, that's actually just the guys that run the TrackMan who are kind of I
Okay.
don't know, like, kind of my guys, I guess, the analytics team. And then so they just when a pitch gets thrown that they want to post, they put it all together. They run the account and they put all that stuff out there. So that's basically the analytics team that does that.
Yeah, that's super cool. Super cool.
Yeah.
um Now, when you take that stuff and you're thinking about like developing like, training plans or kind of pitch plans, how do you kind of use that data to like identify like strengths and weaknesses of either, current pitching staff, or, maybe teams that you're going against? Like, how do you use it just for game planning?
Yeah. So we kind of, a lot of the numbers, especially obviously velo, but the one we've kind of looked at is vertical approach angle, which is the angle it kind of comes through the zone
Mhm.
down. So it kind of helps us know if a fastball plays up or down. Uh, curveballs, how steep they are, that sort of thing. So it just helps us know where certain pitches are the most effective, I think is kind of the best way to put it. And then it lets us game plan off that sort of thing.
Got it. That's pretty cool. Um, so you talked a little bit about that. Are there any other like stats or metrics that you've kind of found to be valuable or, important when you're assessing like broader teams or, certain approaches at the plate? Is there anything else that kind of popped to mind?
I think so. Vertical approach angles, obviously, kind of the big one. I think velo, from a hitting perspective, it just helps you know, like if a guy has a really good vertical, then you should lay off the pitch at the top of the zone, and then look for something down. And if it's plays down, you should look for something up, that sort of thing. And then we get like it has zone data too, so it helps us know how many pitches are in the zone, like percentage wise. So that can help just kind of know strike throw or not strike throw or sort of things.
Yeah.
Lets you game plan a little bit off that.
Now, are you getting any data during the game on the opposing team as well while they're pitching? Or is it
Not
mostly
during
like
the game.
prep coming in?
Yeah, it's prep coming in and then game data after the game.
Got it.
Yeah.
I mean, God, I think about some of that cool stuff that I would love to have or have like accessibility to what I'm calling the Augie games.
Oh,
Because occasionally I love it when the opposing team is sitting right in front of the press box and they've got their radar gun and they're shooting it, so I can at least get speed. It's sometimes hard from my angle where it's at to identify a lot of pitches. Like fastballs are pretty easy, but a few others it's like, oh, it's kind of tough to see given my vantage point. And but yeah, I'm like, I really next year just need to like go buy my own like radar gun, put it in the window just so I can at least get speed.
yeah.
It, little minor things to talk about. So
Yeah.
like what I mean, how much? I mean, you may not even know this, but like that type of system, like how much does something like that, cost from like an initial purchase point? Would you guess?
The TrackMan, I think it was 20,000 to put it in, and then there's like a subscription to keep it. Basically, I think it's somewhere around there. I think.
Yeah, it's not cheap.
No. No, it's not. Yeah, I'm glad it's not coming out of my pocket.
Yeah. And thinking back to pitching, is there anything that now, seeing metrics, seeing analytics that you wished you would have known either pitching last year? And maybe you had, access to the data obviously last year from the prior grad assistant, but even going back to like, your time at Augie, like what have you learned about pitching that's maybe been some aha moments that you maybe didn't have as much exposure to coming into K-State?
Yeah, I mean, I think the main thing is just kind of having a more. I'm a numbers guy, so it helps me make sense of things. Some people don't need it, but like just having a more overview of what my stuff is doing, I think helped a lot. Like knowing that my slider, moves more horizontally, so I can locate it better. Knowing my fastball comes in, sinks down a little bit, or whatever it is. Just having an overall sense of what my stuff is doing, I think, is nice.
Yeah. Do you guys have the high speed camera so that like when you're throwing, like a curveball or something, you can actually see it coming, kind of rolling off your fingers? Like, do you have something to that perspective that slows it down so much so you can see how the ball like exits your hand?
We didn't last year. We just got this year some new like they're super slow mo. It's unbelievable, but like just super slow mo that you can kind of see that stuff. But it's tough to like you got to kind of know what you're looking for, sort of thing. So it
Yeah.
only helps in some cases,
Yeah.
but it's super cool. We're using it.
That's probably one of those things, right? Like once you start using it, you'll get better with the use of the tool, right? Kind of over time. So
kind of knowing what to do
Um,
with it.
like, so you're talking about like your slider, having that information, like what was other information that, you liked when you were pitching last year, um, that you wanted to be fed kind of after a game and you sat down and you wanted to understand and break down, like, were there things that, you just generally kind of gravitated to a little bit based on like maybe the pitches or the pitching style that you enjoyed?
Uh, I mean, velo.
Yeah.
Velo was always kind of the first thing I looked at, just to, you know, it helped me know if everything was kind of working. And then the main thing was I was trying to get my slider to be harder all year, so I'd look at that velo. I wanted it to get to 80, 81, somewhere in there, but sometimes it was low. So just kind of knowing that, and then yeah, I think that was the main thing. Because really, once it was in game, it was just kind of how I did in game. I kind of felt like whatever I had is what I had.
Yep. Yep. No, that makes sense. Well, I mean, pitching last year, it's like, you appeared in 17 games, you started 13 of them. You had the fourth most innings pitched on the team last year, which I thought was awesome. What were some of the differences like you noticed making the jump from pitching, at Division 3 in the CCIW and in the NCAA tournament to, Division 1?
Yeah, I think the biggest difference for me was just that like every hitter's like all due respect to everyone in the CCIW, it's a great league, but like the 9 hole is probably not going to take you deep in the CCIW, whereas the 9 hole on Oklahoma is going to hit one 500 feet off you if you throw one down the middle, and that was kind of it was just a every pitch has to be 100% focused all the time. And that was, I think, the biggest difference for me. I had a hard time getting through the second time through the order. So a lot of my starts were like 3-4 innings because it would roll over, and then it would be like, ooh, he's starting to get hit a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So I
when I
think
was
that was
talking to, when I was talking to Chase and Harry, I mean, that's kind of the same stuff they talked about. It's like it's really the depth of the talent is the big difference, right? It's like, you're 1, 2, 3, and 4 hitter, in Division 3. Those are spread, through all nine, folks in the batting lineup. So, like, Chase, I laughed at Chase because he's like, I was a great Division 3 hitter. I was, an okay, hitter, at Valpo. But he's like, but when I saw, like Alabama play and some of like the top tier programs, he's like, I'm not very good at baseball. So, so you start to kind of see and understand the level of, what that looks like. So it's certainly pretty interesting. Um, coming one of the things I was curious on, because you got a lot of innings pitched, and it felt like you really stepped into a pretty good rotation, for the bullpen, and it's like coming off that 2023 All American season at Augie, stepping onto the field at Kansas State. Like, did you have to deal with the perception of, yeah, but that was Division 3, or yeah, but you were a Division 3, pitcher? Did any of that stuff ever seem to like come up or kind of creep up?
a little bit. The advantage I had was the year before we had a D3 pitcher, Owen Borma, came from a D3 in Minnesota and was the Friday guy, like ace for the staff the year before and the year I was there. So it's not like I wasn't the first D3 guy to roll through. And honestly, Owen had a ton of success. So it's that stigma was kind of gone when I got there. So that was actually really nice. When I had those doubts, I could be like, oh, Owen, Owen came here and did really well. So it's not like the jump is possible and easily, I can do it too, sort of deal.
Well, and
And
it
then the
feels
coach,
like,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
The coaches obviously, believed in me and helped me through that too. Made sure they knew my stuff was good enough so that I had the confidence to go do it.
Did you like well, one of the things I was thinking a little bit about, it's like the the talent of baseball amongst all three divisions definitely feels like the skill gap is a lot closer than people anticipate. When you think about, and we're talking about some of the top Division three guys, right? Two Division one, like you said, those 7, 8, 9. They're. I don't think they're necessarily in that comparison, very often. But when you take your top, studs or aces from Division three, regardless of it, with it's a bat or on the mound, they can compete, and certainly seeing that. And it's like Pacific Lutheran. I mean, they split the series with Washington earlier this year, and Pacific Lutheran is a D3, D3 school. Um, so I think that definitely there's that skill gap, you know, is a lot closer than probably people realize.
Oh,
So
100%. What was it? My fifth year, Iowa got beat by Loris.
yeah,
Yeah, and then my sophomore year, we went to UIC and we almost beat them. We probably should have beat them looking back, but you know, going in, I kind of knew that, and that was the skill gap's not that big, really.
no, no, and I mean, I think especially when Augie went up to play Iowa this year, like they saw their main guys. Now, granted, it was the game didn't count for anything, so it was just more like get as many people as you can in and rotate kind of through, and um, just for kind of exposure and the fun of it. Um, and Iowa's having a great year, so it's like same point, we were competing with them for the first few, and then as we started kind of rotating, folks in and out, and again, it was the depth, right? It was the depth that started to kind of take over. Um, but when you started working with the pitching coaches, the strength coaches, were there any differences in what they focused on, last year, like in that fall when you started working with them versus like your time at Augie? Like, were there things that were just, either important to them, or they just focused on that was maybe just, different?
I think from a coaching's perspective, I think the fall we did a ton of inter squads. So the whole fall was basically inter squads, which is similar to Augie, and they just wanted to see you go compete. Like that was the main thing for them was go show your best stuff, you know, go compete against the best guys, see what you can do. And then they're just kind of evaluating that. And I think that's pretty similar to Augie, I think, in how they do it. And then I think the strength piece, same thing. It's just our strength guy here, AJ. I think he has more resources to be able to do kind of what he wants. I thought Jeff
Mhm.
at Augie was phenomenal. It's just he's doing every team at Augie, whereas AJ here is just baseball. So he's able to focus in on us a little more, I think, and that is the main difference to me.
Yeah, yeah, resources, 100%, 100%.
Yeah.
Um, um, well, when I was thinking a little bit about last year and kind of looking back at last year, like, did the initial expectations you had going, to K State really live up to, now what you've experienced and what you're currently experiencing?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I came to K State kind of expecting, I knew what they did the year before. They were bubble team. And, I went to K State expecting to continue that. And, obviously we made a super regional. And I think that was, one of the best runs of my life. So it was, super exciting. And now doing what I'm doing here, it's just still awesome. So yeah, it's been great.
Um, I mean, what's your plan for, kind of after this year? What are you, kind of thinking about?
I think I'm going to move back to Denver is kind of my plan. I'm going to hopefully get a job doing data analytics either in Denver or remote, and then probably coach some high school travel ball stuff. Try to kind of continue being in baseball like that. Just, do what I can to stay in the sport.
Yeah.
It's kind of that, yeah.
Have you thought about trying to do like analytics within like the minors or the MLB or any organizations like that?
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the end goal is get into a team or get into some organization like that and kind of do analytics for them. I think is that's pretty much what I want to do. I think doing all this stuff for a pro team would be amazing.
Yeah.
Hopefully the Rock.
I'm gonna say, hell, you could probably go pitch for the Rockies right now. As they're playing, they probably would let you come. Like I'll throw some relief and I'll do your analytics on the side.
Yeah, that'd be
Um,
great.
God, they're struggling. They're
It's,
struggling hard.
uh,
I'd spent 7 years out there, and it's like every now and then when I catch a Rocky game, I'm like, it just seems like it's so dead there. And I remember, when I went there, it was Rocktober's my first year in 2007, and really all the way until I left in 2014, like Rockies games were, I mean, they were always, not always sold out, but they were pretty well packed.
yeah,
There weren't a ton of open seats, but they've really kind of they've
yeah.
they've fallen
I
off
mean,
hard the last few years.
my freshman year at Augie was the year of the Cubs Rockies wild card game,
Mm.
and that was. I mean, I still remember watching that game with a bunch of Cubs fans and winning it, and it was fun
It
for
was a
me,
lot of
not
fun.
for everyone else. But
Yeah, it was that was a ton of fun, being out there and all the different opening games, and that's a ton of fun going downtown and just, even if you don't go to the game, you watch the game at like Sports Column or something or View House, or that's still like a great environment just to be in, regardless.
yeah,
Um but I mean, so, as a Rocky fan though, like what were maybe some of your favorite, players, um, growing up?
yeah. I mean, I was a Troy Tulowitzki fan through and through. Troy Tulowitzki, Todd Helton, Cargo. Those three are kind of my big three on the Mount Rushmore. And then Jeff Francis, that whole team, Kadir. It was just a fun team to kind of root for when it was those three going around. You know, had a bunch of other guys that were just fun to watch. DJ LeMahieu, Trevor Story. It was a lot of fun players. I felt like it was exciting.
It was. I don't know. I just saw something recently about LaTroy Hawkins because he was one of the main pitchers that 2007 year. Um, I was trying to remember exactly what it was. Um, 'Cause it just came up. Um, I was trying to find it here real quick, but I was like, man, LaTroy Hawkins is 52 years old. Like,
Yeah,
it just doesn't
you know,
seem right.
came back to the Rockies when he was like 40.
Yeah.
Like I don't remember what year it was, but he was like the oldest pitcher in the big leagues pitched for the Rockies.
Yep. Yep. Oh. I mean, so when you're back in Colorado, like, what are some of the other things you like to go do, or like places you like to go visit, eat? What are some of your favorite spots?
Yeah, I mean, I like. I'm a big golfer, so I like golfing in the mountains. Go up to the mountains, just hang out. I don't ski, which is a little weird, but just going up to the mountains, hiking, that sort of thing. And then also like a ton of people from Augie are in Colorado right now. So it's basically all my college friends are in Colorado, going to hang out with them. Gonna move in with Max Mead from
Okay.
Augie. You know, Brett's there, my old roommate. So it's just a good group of people that I have kind of in Colorado that I'm excited to go back and kind of join.
Yeah, absolutely. I try to get out there occasionally too. So, um, yeah. So next time we do, I'll have to shoot you a note and
Yeah,
circle up with a bunch of guys. That'd be a fun time.
yeah.
So what's your favorite course then?
My favorite course? Oh, uh, I haven't played any of the super big ones. It's fun at the altitude. It's really fun to hit driver. Is the
Yep.
that's the big draw. Me and Harry go play Saddle Rock a lot. It's kind of by him in Aurora. He works there,
Yep.
so we go play Saddle Rock. That's a fun course. But yeah, just anywhere I can pull driver is a good time.
The my favorite course is Fossil Trace so over in Golden.
Okay.
That's a great one to play.
Yeah.
A little pricey, but it's a ton of fun. Have you ever played um Three Peaks there in is it Keystone, I think. The
No,
Raven at Three Peaks.
no, I haven't.
That's a fun one. So you want to talk about hitting from some elevation. And you feel like you're standing up. I think what was it, 9? Yeah, I think it's 9 that's coming down because you start off to the left and then you kind of work your way up the mountain. And then I think 9 comes off down towards the clubhouse, and you're sitting there and there's a row of trees and, some houses and stuff. And you still got to poke it a pretty good distance. It's like 220, I think, to carry to the fairway. But you think you're going to hit this thing 1,000 yards. Um,
Yep.
and then you find out like it goes up and it's just, it's just sailing and sailing and sailing. Like, oh, this thing's going to go down to the road down there. Next thing you know, like it just hits the fairway. It starts going.
Yeah.
Uh, that's
That
a
sounds like
that's
I'll
a
pull
really
as
cool
many
one.
cards as I can and just slice it.
Yep.
Say goodbye to three golf balls there and take a drop
Yeah.
somewhere.
That's a fun one. I like playing up in gosh, I'm trying to think of the town, but it's got 3 9-hole courses. I'm just blanking on it right now. Bear is one of them. Um, so you're going past Keystone. Actually, I'm like blanking on it. Um, Another fun one to go up to. One of my favorites is up in um, oh gosh, it is Steamboat Haymaker.
Oh, I haven't played it, but me and Brett drove up to Steamboat one to do something for his mom's work, and up in Steamboat, and we drove by. Like, oh man, next time we come up, we should bring our clubs.
That's my favorite. That's like I love playing that one whenever I can.
Steamboat's unbelievable in general, but
It is.
yeah,
It is. God, that one's so pricey though too. It's like
oh, I
that's the only
know.
bad thing. Like some of those
Crazy.
nice ones, I think
Yeah,
Steamboat was like
crazy.
3
It's
or three
crazy. All of
fifty.
Colorado. Yeah, all of Colorado's crazy for that. It's nice here in well, not here, but in Kansas, it's a little cheaper, so it's nice.
Yes, yes, that it is.
Yeah, those New Island go play sake for $20 and just
Sock, man, Saki, yeah. Um, you know, well, when you think about, kind of back to your time at Augustana, what are some of those like favorite memories that you kind of, in moments like you relive and you and Brett and all those guys like talk about when you get together?
I mean, obviously the conference championships, both of those were unbelievable. Going to North Central, beating North Central there, then the next year Illinois Wesleyan beating them on the second game. Both the endings were unbelievable too. It just those are kind of the main ones, and then just kind of hanging out. I got a memory on my phone of us on the bus back from North Central, all singing "We Are the Champions." the After the Illinois Wesleyan one, the champagne shower we did in the backyard of the house while it's pouring rain. Just kind of those small things that you just kind of remember from those days, like, oh yeah, it was pouring, that
Hmm.
sort of thing. Just the small things with all the guys. It's just fun to look back on and think about.
It is. It was odd. It has been the last 2 years. I mean, Ozanik, because he's on North Park staff. He stopped and I talked to him for a little bit. It's just odd, to see him in like you know a different Viking apparel.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, so many cool memories. I mean, this was my fourth or fifth year. Doing the games and just all the cool experiences there at Swanson Stadium there at Bruner Field but we did not have a I want to say we had two, maybe three nice home games, But it was colder at our last game than it was opening day there at home.
Yeah,
So playing in the Midwest is a little like,
yeah.
yeah,
I saw you talking to Harry about that, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm in Houston. It's beautiful all the time." And I was like,
yeah,
I'm in Kansas. It's windy. We've got the heater out in the bullpen in April. It's same sort of deal at Augie, just Midwest weather. You never know what you're going to get.
no, you don't.
The
Well,
game in
today actually
Cincinnati
kicks off.
because of the rain. It's going to come through, so it's like, well, never really know.
Yeah. What um other than that, I mean, you know, it one of the other things I was talking to Harry a little bit about a couple Mondays ago, you know, especially like the 2022-2023 seasons, and in particular, like how competitive you two were. For each game, Friday, Saturday, starts. Was there ever just like a kind of a back and forth challenge that, you just kind of just sticks in your mind, that you either, wanted to win or ended up winning? 'Cause I know you two were like super competitive throughout the entire season, when it came to strikeouts or, whatever the
Yeah.
case was. Any of those things
I
kind of
mean,
pop up?
the thing I remember most is we'd start back to back on double headers. So he'd start game one, I'd start game two. And after almost every game, I'd go up, how many strikeouts you get? And then I'd try to beat him in game two. Just that small competitiveness of me versus Harry was just, I think it brought both of us up. I'll never forget. We both started against Carthage. We laugh about this all the time, but we both start against Carthage. He goes first game, like I think he shut him out 9 innings, 12 strikeouts, and after the game he goes 12 strikeouts, beat that. And I went and I think I threw 8 and got 13 strikeouts, and after the game I kind of laughed at him.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, it brought both of us. It got both of us better too. It was just a lot of fun doing that with him. We still do it. We'll still, he'll throw pitcher of the year at me, and I'm like, I can't beat that.
I mean, there's one, right?
Right.
Yeah. But no, I mean, I was just looking at like, the stats from that. It's like, you ended with a 288 career ERA, 175 innings pitched, 223 strikeouts, like 16 wins. You appeared in 38 games. You had a 234 batting average against you, and heck, yeah, that was a 219 in your last year. So it's like, taking a look back just at the overall career there, not including the success you had at Kansas State. It's a pretty impressive career, man. I know just for me, like I'm super appreciative to have been able to experience it and experience what, those teams have done over the last, 4 or 5 years. So for me, it's kind of easy to be a kind of a nice little super fan here. Um, it's like just the legacy you guys have built, the name, and the brand you guys, you built for Augustana, and continue to add on to Augustana, and the great brand they already had. It was just cool to watch. So, so as a fan, um, someone who calls the games, like appreciate I appreciate all those memories. So, thank you for those.
Yeah, thank you. It's a great place to go play. I think, like, you know, it's just a lot of fun being there, and a lot of credit to the coaches for helping me through it. And it was one of like two D3s that said, "Yeah, you can come play for me in high school." So it's like, well, it's nice kind of to be able to give it back a little bit. Ended up working out pretty well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, lastly, if there's anything, anyone in particular you'd like to like thank, family, friends, shout outs you'd like to make, I think we can wrap it up here with the floor is all yours.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thankful to all the coaches, especially Howard, G-Wall, BJ at Augie, just kind of helped me through that, and then all my teammates. Harry, especially that competition, but same thing with Hoban. Me and Hoban had that sort of thing. The seniors while I was a freshman, Mike Powers. It's just a lot of people went into it, and it's fun looking back on it.
Absolutely.
And
A ton of success.
My parents too. My mom would kill me if I didn't thank her.
Yeah, can't miss them. I mean, all the weekends.
Yeah, all the weekends they went to, and a lot of people went into it, and it's fun to look back on it and think about it.
Well, now you're in a position, you can start to, kind of start paying some of that stuff forward, and it'd be exciting to see you kind of continue this, as you jump into, the coaching side of things. I've always found a ton of satisfaction from, coaching, and luckily I have, two boys that are 8 and 10, and they want me to be involved in about every sport that that they can, and so it's always a ton of fun. So I think you'll start to see and get a ton of satisfaction from that, as you kind of start the second chapter here, of your life here soon.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but well, hey Josh, I know I got to be mindful of your time. You guys are in Kansas City, or excuse me, in Cincinnati, and you've got them coming up soon. They moved that game up, so I'll let you jump off here. But again, Josh, thanks again for your time, and obviously good luck here the rest of the season here.
Thank you. Really appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. It's a lot of fun.
Absolutely.